Well, we are live now, so
Yay, I'm live. Welcome to the Mattriachy, starring Dave Kwong.
You can't say boobies on the internet.
I can say whoopee.
That's why I put the picture there. Pictures are fine.
Pictures are fine. Pictures are fine. Ladies and gentlemen, it's a Thursday. It's the Mattriarchy. I am joined by a ridiculous cast of wild and crazy guys. I've got Cody with Jack Irons here. I've got Tim Lim and Mark Pellegrini from the Bunnyverse.
Howdy, howdy.
Yeah.
Hi.
And we've got Daquan Jenkins from the Rags team. And maybe Trent Luther will show up. Maybe not. Who knows?
What up, my dogs?
Yeah. And we are here today to talk about pop culture in comics. Now, you might say, but Reese, comics are pop culture. And I'd say yes. But as is a habit, they tend to feed into each other a lot. And these guys are of all produced products that reference other pop culture properties in a way that is not cheesy and actually adds a ton to the whole Easter egg of it all. And I wanted to bring these guys on to talk about it because I thought that sounds like fun. So thank you so much for coming on, guys.
You're welcome.
Happy to be here.
So
my pleasure.
Just in case anybody is not familiar with your work, why don't we go around and just kind of talk about it a little bit and introduce the folks out there in the Ethernet to what it is you do. And let's start, Cody, with you.
All right. Well, I'm Cody with Ironverse Comics, delivering you folks the best of the Weird Space West. What I am most well known for is our series Jack Irons, the Steel Cowboy. An immortal man wanders through galactic Armageddon, seeking freedom and purpose. It references, since we're talking about that, it references Mad Max, it references Samurai Jack, it references so many different things. I got an Invader Zim reference in this latest one. I enjoy myself some pop culture, and I tend to be a little bit of a student of it. But you folks check out ironversecomics.com for more, and I'm sure we'll be talking about it on this show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for coming on. Daquan, since you're the newest person here, why don't you go ahead and talk about your thing?
Oh, yeah, I'm Daquan, the newest diversity hire for New Age Ninja Corps. I am the story architect for Hot Blood Foreigner Sailor Rogowski, and I'm also currently rewriting what they call Rags Season 2, the Justin Bieber arc. We have massive amounts of pop culture references. A lot of them are kind of story spoilers, kind of Easter eggs. Be prepared to see a Kanye dragon, if you will. And Sailor Rogowski has so many Easter eggs. Some good, some bad, some may break your soul. But they're there. Oh, they're there. Like
Man,
a Care Bear.
I just
Care Bear's there.
Noticed your boss, Brian, showed up in the chat to grace us with his presence. I appreciate that, Brian, for coming along.
Yeah, fuck that guy.
Yeah.
He's a hack.
Oh, man. Oh, and the 10-cent story has come. Thanks for coming on, man. On into the chat there. Tim and Mark, you guys, I have not checked totals this afternoon. I was on the road, as per usual, all afternoon. And curse it, Brian, you're making me laugh. So I don't know how far you guys have gotten, but last I saw it was $5,500 within like just shy of 24 hours. You guys are rocking it with this Common America 3 stuff. What's your secret, man?
We just put the work in, and it took 3.5, 4 years to do it. So for people who think that it was just an overnight thing, it was not. It was a lot of good faith building with no major endorsement, but really good support network.
That's the long answer. The short answer is boobies.
That too.
Cake.
Yes.
They certainly didn't hurt the cause at all.
No, and there's a lot more to the book than sex appeal and fan service. We've had some people who haven't read the book, tell us like there's no there's no substance to Common America. It's just boobies. And like, well, sit down and read it, and you might change your mind because there's actually quite a lot of content to it.
See,
I mean,
exactly
it would help, but 90% of those people are ill fucking literate.
Well, then they should like the boobies because that's what they can't read the comic. They can at least look at it.
The thing that gets me about that whole situation is it's sort of like, just accusing pretty women of having nothing to offer because they've never actually spoken with one. Now, there are pretty women that have nothing to offer, but that's a really not a good way to go through life with that assumption.
I mean, they used to have nothing to offer, but then OnlyFans became a thing.
Oh my god.
No comment.
Gotta get my gamer girl bath
Yes,
water.
it
Only
did.
$50
Yes,
a
it
pint.
Mm.
Here we go. The 10-cent story says, I remember when Tim Lim sent me a the thing is being sluggish. Is anyone else seeing my hang up, or is that just on my screen?
Your hang up?
I am walking up to myself, which is not
you look fine to me.
Okay.
You fine, Matt Reese. You looking fine.
Wow.
I mean, I don't really swing that way, but I guess you're all right. I mean,
Okay.
Smoking.
I remember when Tim Lin sent me a children's Bunny Trump book on my deployment to the Middle East. So there you have it. That's
Yeah, and hold on to that 10-cent story. It might be contraband in the next 2 years.
Yeah, white nationalist Tim Lim sent you that book.
Yeah. That's all you from the chat. So I get to look like an idiot to myself. So that's a fun. I like that. I appreciate that. So anyway, but Common America, of course, you guys have gotten just, of course, ridiculous amounts of success with this last campaign. And bravo. You guys are planning on doing Indiegogo as well? Am I assuming that, or?
Yeah. We're always going to do the dual platform approach. The only thing about Indiegogo, though, is that it's everything that's left over from the previous campaign. So what I do is I order all the books about halfway through the Kickstarter campaign. But in order to do that, I have to use a projective algorithm that basically will tell me about how many people we're going to have. And so far, it's been pretty good. But of course, you can always have a hiccup, like if someone comes in at the last minute and says, hey, go buy this book, and then maybe there's a rush of like 500 people or whatever. So the only thing I can offer on Indiegogo is what we have left in stock, which is why I tell people, hey, I get it, you have your loyalty to a platform, but if you're one of those people who really needs this or wants this or scared that you might not get it, then I just encourage you to do it on Kickstarter first.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there are people, though, who, and this is where I have a little bit of pushback, but I don't want to get too much into it. I have people who are like, I don't agree with the Kickstarter politics. I don't agree with their platform. I'm like, their platform is exactly the same as Indiegogo. And they're like, no, it's not. And I'm like, yeah, I know that thing that you don't like, that hashtag. Look up Indiegogo plus that same hashtag. And when they see it, they move the goalposts and then they say, well, that was just a blog post. I'm like, well, that's not your argument. Your argument was their position. What's the difference between a blog post versus just saying it outright, like every day? It's the same exact political stance. So again, customers have their own preference, and we're just trying to accommodate both.
Yeah, we want the books to be available to as many people and as many platforms as possible. So we do the Kickstarter, which is the big one that we get the most sales on. We do the limited one on Indiegogo when we have leftover stock. And if we have any leftover stock from that, we put it on the iconiccomics.com web store. So there are some leftover reprints of Common America 1 and the Black Ops Omnibus, etc., and Walmart that are on the iconiccomics.com web store. And then if Antarctic Press likes the work that we did, they'll put a direct market edition out in comic shops a year later. So there's at least 4 opportunities to get our books from 4 different platforms. So we should hopefully have everybody covered.
Yeah. Now, you guys, when you guys were putting that whole thing together, of course, the common character began as a joke, which I love. I just love this. Began as a joke. Tell us a little bit about that for the folks at home.
So it began as a parody character in Walmart. It was a Warhen, which is obviously a satire or a parody on Warbird. So it's obvious like which character we're making fun of. But what happened was I put her bio sheet out there, and I think in 2017, 2018, that was my most shared and retweeted tweet, people were like, "Oh my gosh, this character looks so cool." And Mark and I have no interest in writing really female characters, but it made us have to look at it a second time and be like, I specifically remember telling Mark, at some point we're going to drop out of politics, because honestly, this is just as long as the current administration lasts. It's the entire reason we're in politics. Without that, it's just going to be boring again. So we need an out. We need a way that we can channel a lot of our humor into something else that's going to be divorced from politics. So then I was like, hey, Mark, why don't we just develop the character into her own spin-off? And obviously we have to change the name and everything so that we can avoid a legal hassle going forward. And that's essentially how that started. So for about a year, we developed the character. It was very painstaking. I mean, how she appeared in her beginning, as far as like our mind, was very different than what she ended up with. A lot of that was influenced by personal things that happened, like in the comic sphere. So the first book is actually like a meta commentary on some of the stuff that we witnessed. So it was definitely an evolution in terms of where we began versus where it ended up.
Yeah, she if you actually go back and if you have a copy of Wall Might 2, which is Wall Might First Term Part 2 is what that volume was called. Warhen in that book, there's a lot of, in her origins and her write-ups, there's some discontinuity with, Common America 1. Her origin that's in her bio in the back of the book, there are some similar elements, but we redid it completely. Also in that one-page crossover with Wanpool, she specifically says that she can't sew. And that was before we decided on her being a fashionista and a fashion designer. So like there's some. It's very much a prototype version of Carly Vanders in Wall Might 2, and then like Tim said, we spent a long time developing her and refining her character and everything, and turning her really into less of a blatant parody and more of her own individual character.
Yeah, and I think that's actually works out really, really well in a lot of ways, because one of the things I think is a real strength in Common America 1 is how girly you made Carly. So like because that's just something that's been so extracted from even the most feminine mainstream comic characters. They still have this like boyish edge in them, and I don't have a problem with the whole tomboy archetype at all, but it does also seems like the very feminine has just been extricated entirely, and then all of the tomboy impulses have been pushed over to the lesbian side, it seems to me.
Which is reinforcing stereotypes, which those people claim to hate. It's kind of
Well, and then speaking about that too, Matt. So the person who sang our theme song, we've been working on this for about 4 months already. And when she asked us, she was like, what things do you not want me to put in it? Like, are there words that you don't want me to use? And I said, well, it's funny that you say that. There's actually 2. Actually, there's 3 I don't want you to use. And it's strong, empowered, and independent. and so she asked, she was like, just out of curiosity, why those 3? And I said, when you read the book, part of the thing is that there is a struggle against kind of a mainstream culture that it's constantly putting buzzwords into our cultural milieu to the point where it's overused and oversaturated that it doesn't describe anything anymore. So, for example, you have like Gina Carano in The Mandalorian. And so some people will be like, oh my gosh, she's strong, independent. I'm like, no. Just think about it this way. If you had a thesaurus, I can replace the word strong with a word that's equal to it that means more. She's tough, right? You replace one word with another that could essentially get the same thing across, but the image in your mind is so much more stark. So I was like, the challenge to, I think, a lot of creators is you see it all the time in comics where it's like, describe your female character. Oh, she's strong, independent, she's empowered. Strong, independent, empowered. It's like that doesn't paint any picture whatsoever. You have to learn how to describe your character in a way that's not taking shortcuts. And I think our singer did a really good job in doing that. She avoided those 3 words. And I was speaking to her not too long ago. And she's like, I'm really happy that you told me that, because now I feel like when I'm coming up with music or lyrics or whatever, I'm starting to think like, what are some alternative words I can use that aren't just dipping into the same barrel again for descriptors. So I think that it suits the character well. We wanted to create a character that was basically your girl next door. I think all of us kind of know someone like that growing up, just kind of like a wholesome beauty, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
And so I know overall I'm really pleased. Mark and I had no intention at all of really ever writing a female character, but we took on the challenge.
Well, and I think some of that.
Could you guys just stop being perfect for like 10 fucking minutes?
Make us.
What I was going to say.
Stop.
What I was going to say, I think is it's as a writer, it's one of the things too. Is sometimes the characters kind of reveal themselves to you. I think and so sometimes you can, I think, fall in love with an idea that was sort of a passing fancy. And the more you work on it, the more you deal with it, and the more it becomes something substantial. And you're like, no, this is where the meat of the thing is, and I'm going to chase that down. And I think that's something that writing brings out a lot. But Daquan, let's change.
Yeah, my time shine.
Let's change the subject a little bit because I did not finish. I read the preview for Hot Blooded Foreigner, and I loved it. But I have not taken the time to. I did buy the whole thing, but haven't taken the time to read it because I don't gauge my time.
Too busy with Common America. I see how it is. Yeah. I want to be a Super Saiyan. I want to be a Super Saiyan.
So, tell us a little bit about your inspiration behind Hot Blooded Foreigner, because it's a very different take. I've had Brian on in the past to talk about Rags, and I love the grit and the reality. I love the honestness of Regina in Rags. And I don't think that Hot Blooded Foreigner has less honesty, but it's about a different subject matter. So what was your take in tweaking those concepts and ideas?
Okay, so we really want to start with, as everything that happens with us, it all started with a joke, right? Way back, I want to say around issue 4 of Rags, Brian's dipshit ass hired some dude to do like a sailor kind of like pinup of Regina's, and that actually became very, very popular within his little Patreon Discord thing that he has going on, and people just kept asking him, like, hey, are you going to make this like a one-shot? Or are you just going to keep making this a one-shot? And eventually he caved and he wrote it. And then he based a lot of his experience, based a lot of the story on his experience in Okinawa and his friendships with the Okinawan people. And he kind of took that and jacked it all up. And I went in there and fixed it. So pretty much where it was going to be like another kind of like Debbie Downer sort of a story, I've kind of flipped the script. There's absolutely no cursing. It's more of a bubbly character. She's a little bit happy. She goes through some trials. It starts off a little Monster of the Week, goes into a little bit of Dragon Ball, sort of a Bleach sort of a thing, and goes from there. It's my first time working with Luigi Terrell, so we have some rough patches that we need to clean up, but hopefully by the time we actually get to the first full story arc, everybody will enjoy it and we'll have all those issues fixed.
So one of the things that was a pleasant to discover inside of Rags was like a lot of the tiny references, which goes back to our theme for today. You had, little nods to Resident Evil. You had nods to pop music. You had nods to old forgotten anime and cartoons from the 70s. Is there that kind of stuff going to show up in Sailor Rogowski?
Abso-freaking-lutely, right? So Brian is still adamant about his super weeb shit. So if you look at one of the first characters that we introduce is she's called Ryukyu Mew, which is a character he actually drew on the back of a Dash 10 to impress some Japanese chick. That's a fun story for later. But we took that design and kind of meshed it with Kelty from Durara and the Red Power Ranger and just threw a skirt on her. And then we decided, like, no, it'd be cool if they kind of look like the White Ranger too. So we meshed all those things together, and bam, Ryukyu Mew was born.
So
yes,
Trent has joined us. Thanks for coming along, man.
Oh, hi.
Oh, what's up, Pumpkin?
Hi.
Well, how's it going?
Hey.
So Brian decided he was too good to show up and sent Daquan instead. So Trent, tell us a little bit about your feelings toward Rags. as things have gone on, and what are the kind of things that you wanted to put into the series?
Huh. Well, Daquan's a douche.
Eat my ass.
Yeah, fuck you. I mean, I don't really know how to answer that because everything's kind of gone the way I wanted it for the most part. Well, I mean, not that it's not just what I've wanted, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's been kind of like, you know, what we wanted, and it's gone exactly how I've wanted it. But with I don't know, is season 2 happening? I don't know if I've even had a straight answer on that one yet. But I mean, I'm easy to work with. So like, I don't mind switching shit up. It's pretty easy going for me, honestly. I'll roll with the punches. So yeah, I mean, pretty much anything that comes out is I'm normally on board with. Normally.
Okay. So tonight's theme, of course, is looking at pop culture and comics and how to keep it from being cheesy. And this is sort of, we're going to take it to the whole panel here. How do you feel like pop culture has added to, or how do you keep it to your story, or how do you keep it from seeming like you're just leeching off somebody else's thing? And Cody, you haven't talked a lot, so we're going to start with you.
All right, I'll see if my connection holds up. I'm not sure if it's on my end or what, but that's why I popped out for a minute. Hopefully it holds. For me, it's knowing the distinction between inspiration and plagiarism. I mean, it's very, very. It can be a fine line to walk depending on how close to, say, a parody you're working towards. But for us, it was simply inspiration. The whole impetus behind Jack and behind Ironverse Comics is to communicate the lessons that we learned from what we knew in a new way, with maybe some redefined lines to fit a more modern sensibility. And that's really what I try to do. Most of the beats, the pacing, the idea, all that isn't directly from anything. I just homage when I feel, you know, it's needed, or it can add a beat, or it can maybe draw somebody closer into the story by adding an additional layer that I didn't have to write or had to be particularly drawn in. Attached to something as simple as a phrase, or a similar cameo, or a similar setting. It allows me to play with baggage, pop culture baggage, and attach it and allow it to add layers to what I'm doing, but also allows me as the creator and our team to define how we would prefer that to be seen and how we want to communicate. It allows us to give that opportunity to the reader. But that's always on the reader to, get what they get out of it, and it's our job to make it easy and understandable, and hopefully to get across what we want to get across in that moment. And that's kind of how I go about it. I don't tend to do cheese so much. I'll do a gag maybe. Like issue 3, I did a homage to Blazing Saddles, which I didn't realize was an homage to Sierra Madre. I think you are the one who told me that. And so there's that's kind of how I approach it.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing.
That's kind of how I approach it. I don't really have much more footing on that.
Well, and I think especially with maybe not especially, but with the stuff that you put in there, it's so like streamlined, right? I mean, you've definitely, like I said, there's shades of Mad Max in there. You've got a little this other kind of stuff that people can pick out, but I mean, a lot of the stuff is just so woven in. And this is true for Rags too, that if you're not looking for it, you'll miss it, right? And which actually I want to come back around to Tim's stuff in a second with that. But with I think that's one thing. That's
a big one. But that's kind of, again, if you're not heavy-handed with it, if you're going heavy-handed with it, then you should maybe be doing more of a parody.
Yeah. Now, to talk about Tim and Mark's stuff, one of the things that I have not noticed. I've picked up on a bunch of stuff within, especially the Black Ops books, but there were people were sharing stuff on Black Ops 2 or 3, I think actually it was, where there were actually shots from like DuckTales and things like that that people were spotting that I hadn't even picked up on. Right, I hadn't even noticed that, and then that are sticking in there. Oh, those are like kind of deep cut visual kind of things. What is the inspiration behind that? I mean, is that just to entertain yourself, Tim, or what goes on with all of that?
Believe it or not, that DuckTales one, that was Mark's idea, and it was literally in the script. It said
with a screenshot.
It said, use this as your reference. So I painted the whole thing from top to bottom. I even used the same color palette to do it, and not many people got it. But I don't know, Mark. I think sometimes it's just to amuse us, honestly. Like in Black Ops 3, there's so many Easter eggs that people haven't found yet, and that's fine. It just amuses me when I see it. For example, like all the wallpaper in the castle, it's all from the Haunted Mansion in Disney World.
Okay.
Like I recreated the wallpaper and put that in there. The grandfather clock that she's pulling forward to reveal the hidden passage, that's actually like the clock with 13 numbers on it from the Haunted Mansion. There's a bunch of stuff like that no one picked up on. Even like Aaron Sparrow, who's a friend of ours and he's a Disney fanatic, I don't think he picked up on a single one of them. But that's fine. Like, makes me laugh. What it is, if it's an Easter egg that I put in there, it's because, no offense, Mark, it was a boring page, and in order for me to make it fun, I had to basically amuse myself. So I was like, what can we do? I'll tell you another one. This is a big one. Every moon that I draw in a book has the rabbit in the moon on it.
I think I've seen that before. I think I've noticed that.
Yeah, it's the moon rabbit making mochi. It's in every single moon, because to me, I hate drawing the moon, because I'm like, I'm not going to draw every crater and stuff. And someone was like, hey, you notice in a lot of Japanese art, they just draw the rabbit in the moon making mochi. So I just started doing that. So every moon depiction has that same motif in it.
Well, I like it when Tim puts that stuff in the art that's, not in the script, because it's a surprise to me too. Like in Black Ops 3, when the agent is giving his, like, this is your mission, his mission statement to the Black Ops team, how they're going to infiltrate the castle and what route they have to take to the castle. And this is one of those things like, oh, why did Tim think of it, but not me? Tim drew it as an homage to the map screen from the original NES Castlevania. And I was like, oh, that's awesome. And like, and Tim, but that's the kind of thing, is that you put stuff like that in there, and it doesn't necessarily stick out like a sore thumb. People who are reading it might get it, and if they don't get it, that's okay. It's not like they're going to be staring at that page and like, they're referencing something, but I don't understand. It doesn't act as a stumbling block in the readability of your comic. It's just sort of there as, like, we call it an Easter egg, where if you get it, you get it. If you don't, it's okay. You can keep reading.
I'll be completely honest. That exact feeling, not in a bad way, but there were lots of places in Rags where I'm like, I almost remember what this is from, but I can't quite place it. It's way back there. Something I saw in 8th grade. Man, I just don't remember. But yeah, because
is it all those Great Gatsby references and Rags that you're like, oh, that's what it's from, my 8th grade lit class.
I didn't read Great Gatsby till I was an adult already, so it wasn't that.
Yeah, Brian was really good at hiding all those little mini Easter eggs and whatnot.
But yeah,
and he likes to like there's like just so many Easter eggs in that book. Like, it's almost like a Where's Waldo, and there's still some that haven't been discovered yet. And I know he just sits there at his house just giggling till the day somebody finds stuff. Like I know, I don't know if people notice, but on Regina's freckle patterns, he's there's at least 2 or 3 constellations that he's always like changing around just to see if anybody catches it, and no one's ever brought it up yet.
Well, I was taught very young to not stare at people's freckles for too long because it makes them feel weird. So,
no, it'll pass the curse on to you, and then you'll have freckles. You're like, no.
Then your kid becomes a ginger.
I used to have lots of freckles, but I grew out of them all except my shoulders.
Yeah, I had freckles when I was a little kid too, but that's just because I was a pasty white boy, and all pasty white boys have freckles.
Soulless heathen.
Yeah,
Exactly.
next thing you guys are gonna tell me about this whole like sunburn BS. Oh, I get sunburns.
Hey, you get sunburned too. You just can't see it. All right.
Nah, I don't get sunburns. It's just dark and then I peel. That's it.
That's a sunburn.
Gross.
That's not a
It almost looks
sunburn.
like beef jerky when you peel it off.
That's just no. Like I'm just getting new skin. That's all that is.
I bet you eat it too, don't you?
Oh,
You peel
it's
it
so
off and
delicious.
Ah.
Side of rice
That's enough of that. I'm out.
and a dab of ranch.
Well, I'm always surprised when we put in a reference and it takes people a really long time to get it, like someone to find it or notice it, and it's like out in plain sight, and it seemed obvious to us. So like Carly's like battle cry, her announcement when she's about to fight in Common America, is she says, "To prove the justice of our culture, I will vanquish you." And I was when I was trying to come up with what her, like in the name of the moon, I will punish you, kind of like parody dialogue was going to be. I needed something Englishy that still, worked grammatically. And if you beat the Ghostbusters game on NES, the original Nintendo, there's the victory screen that you get is full of spelling errors, but one of the phrases it says is like, "Congratulations, you have proved," with 2 O's, "the justice of our culture." And like, what the fuck does that mean? And so like, oh, that's perfect. So I adapted that for Carly's like announcement, her battle announcement, and no one got that for like a year before someone finally said, "Hey, is that from Ghostbusters on NES?" I'm like, thank you.
In fairness, Mark, I've never beaten Ghostbusters on NES.
Few people have without a Game Genie, because that stairwell level. Fuck that level.
No, it was getting past the safe of Marshmallow Man.
Oh, that's on like the Commodore 64 version where he's guarding the outside of the building and you have to like maneuver past him.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's like dancing around like a hobo.
Yeah, they cut that out of the NES version. The NES version, you just go into the building and then you get stuck on the damn stairwell. You have to go up like 26 flights of stairs, like pressing the A button, like it's Konami Track and Field or something. And there's ghosts coming at you and you can't shoot them. And it's awful.
I did beat Konami Track and Field one time with a lot of help from my pastor's oldest son. So
do you have
I agree with Mark on like Easter eggs, man. Like so far we've only put like 4 Easter eggs in Sailor Rogowski because I know Brian went way overboard with how many Easter eggs he dumped in Rags 1 through 7. So we only put 4, and 3 of them are like on the first page. And nobody has gotten these yet. And the first one is like blatantly obvious. It's just so blatantly obvious. It's like, how do you miss this? Like how? It's like right there in your face. Like, how do you miss that?
Well, I've only read it once. That's how I miss them. Or I just don't get it.
Well, like I'll even spoil it. There's the unicorn headed speaker from number 6.
I didn't see that.
It's the same speaker. It's like one of the Easter eggs we put in there. Like, hey,
the transdimensional speaker.
That speaker becomes important later.
I believe it. So.
Yeah, there's some like references that I'll put into the script that are completely self-serving and self-gratifying that I don't expect anybody to notice, and Tim just kind of has to roll his eyes and like, yeah, okay, whatever. Like at the beginning of Common America 2, we have that flashback to Carly's high school, and the reference photo I gave Tim for the exterior of the high school was Alexander Hamilton High, which is where all 4 prom night movies take place. And like, no one's going to get that. No one's going to recognize the exterior of the school from the prom night movies in the comic, but that is a reference. And yet, nobody gets that. You have not seen the prom night movies?
I have not.
Oh, well, you should at least see the second one, Hello, Mary Lou, Prom Night 2. Like, that's a classic.
Yeah. We in our webcomic Forces of Good and Evil, the high school that our kids first attend before they're sent to superhero and supervillain high is William Henry Harrison High School.
Died in 30 days.
So that's one of our pop culture references in that one. But I've not seen Prom Night. So as far as Cody mentions here in the chat, nobody called out War Never Changes from Jack 2. I didn't call it out, but I did appreciate it because.
All right, well that's good.
Yeah, like everybody has like some really gnarly Metal Gear references, except for us.
Yeah. Possibly.
That's why you aren't on our level, man. You gotta put that Metal
Issue
Gear
7.
Solid stuff in there.
We're saving the good shit for later. Just you wait. Just you wait.
Yeah. So now Daquan, remind me here because I believe I used to know this, but I cannot remember it. The Sailor Rogowski, is that going to be a one shot?
Well, so it started out as a one shot, and like everything Brian does, it just snowballs into a bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger thing. So he hooked me up with this guy. I don't know if you know him, Dan Sakharov.
Oh yeah,
he writes Adobe
Photoshop.
PDF. Yeah, Photoshop something. Adobe something. Anyway, so he's been working with me on the whole plot line of this, and what Brian ended up dumping in my lap was he got like a bunch of characters from other indie creators. There's a guy named Larry Higgins, so you got like Niobe, Red Ninja Momiji, some sport character, some other character from this thing called Saving the World. Don't know if you heard of it. So he got all these characters together, and he wrote this whole lore story plus plot out, and I have to go in and just make it make sense. Just cut it and make it make sense. Yeah, so it started out as just like a one-shot joke, and then just evolved into a giant monster. So
I can relate to that. I can relate to that entirely. So I tell you what, Dan, I'll have to quiz him about it because he's on my show next week.
Oh, good, because Dan has been very helpful in making sure everything connects right.
Yep.
One of Brian's like original scripts had like so much cursing, so much more nudity, and we just started cutting stuff out left and right. Just like nope.
Just gonna throw some clothes on those women and call it a day.
Yep. I think there's like titties like in one panel, two panels. That's it. There's only like two.
It was a costume that wasn't quite designed for combat. I did notice that one in the preview.
I mean, what magical girl costume is designed for combat? By the way,
I don't know.
Just say it. Sailor Rogowski's actually is, and we'll actually go into that. Like, if you notice the difference between her costume and other magical girl costumes, she actually has body armor built into.
Oh yeah,
the actual suit. So
which, makes it feel very Regina. So that's a good move,
right? And so there's also the thing too. I wanted to make this iteration of the same character absolutely different. Like I didn't want like the exact same brooding "woe is me" sort of character that Brian wrote. Like that kind of gets boring after a while. So after reading Common America #1 like 8 dozen times, I kind of applied a little bit of Mark's writing techniques into the new Reggie, and she's a lot more chipper, a lot more happier, a lot more weebish.
Well, my writing techniques. So you hired a uncredited Korean to write your script for you?
Filipino. Filipino. I can't afford Koreans.
Yeah. So actually, that's one of the interesting things to think about in terms of the two Reginas, right? Is the idea that you have the same kind of person with different life experiences, and how our life experiences shape the way we live in different ways. And I think that's a really fun thing from a narrative perspective to do if you're a person who's willing to deal with the multiple universes. Which I am not, but.
So one of the things Brian absolutely drove home over and over and over and oh my God, so much over and over again, that there's no multiverse. There's only these two, and then that's it. Like there's no like evil version, black version, green, like no, it's just only these two, and then that's it. And he was very specific about the changes. And
is it like that Futurama joke where they go to the end of the universe and they see the alternate universe on their side where they're all wearing cowboy hats and like, oh, so there's an infinite number of multiverses? Like, nope, just the two, just us and the cowboys.
and then they find the universe that's like 1 inch higher than the other one. And they kill their own son. Yeah, it's like that. It's basically like that. So we absolutely hope people fall in love with this newest iteration of Regina. She's gonna not be as mean.
I will tell you, one of the things I loved about the
I too was sick of alternate Bender lording his cowboy hat over regular
That's right.
Well, one thing I really loved about the Sailor Gowski preview is the history of the U.S. Base in Okinawa and how they all work together. I thought that
That's how it corrected itself.
Yeah.
Built right in.
I really enjoyed it. It was something that like I didn't know about that, but it made a lot of sense.
So that's actually something, Brian fucking just kept talking about. Like, so when you go to Okinawa, you'll start to notice that Okinawa is as much as Japan as Hawaii is the United States, like it's its own different culture, its own, and they're still Japanese, but these people, those people out there, they have, their own culture, their own history, their own set of rules and do's and don'ts and whatnot. So I think there's like a 90% of like American forces are actually stationed on this one tiny little island that's like the size of San Diego.
You almost said shithole.
I almost did. I catch myself. So it's like twice the size of Guam. It's like it's not that huge. So you could just go around this place like in a day. But you have like 90% of American forces there. You have Army, you have Air Force, you have Navy, you have Marines, you have Coast Guard. Like you have all these forces.
No, I gotta ask: Are the troops on just one side of the island like they are in Guam?
No, they're on all sides. There's on two different sides of the island. Like
so it's nice and balanced. Then you don't have to worry about.
Yeah, it's nice and balanced. Like
just
keeping it from teetering over onto a turtle. Yeah. And you start looking at mainland Japan, and you have like Yokota, Hokkaido, and that's just really about it. Like there's only like 2 bases there, and then you start noticing little things where the Okinawans, they don't refer to themselves like, yeah, we're Okinawan. They're like, no, we're Ryukyu. They're not really Japanese, but they speak the language. They drive on the right side of the road. They do Japanese things, but to them, they're not Japanese. They're Ryukyu, And then there's this whole different set of I really don't want to get into like racism, but there's racism there, and you don't really see it the normal way, like as Americans sees racism, right? You see people from Okinawa, and you think, okay, these people are Japanese, but if you take someone from Okinawa, put them in mainland Japan, they'll look exactly like a foreigner. So there's things like that we get to play with and talk about and showcase that hasn't been really talked before, right? And God, this meat's delicious.
Well, I know the Japanese don't like to talk about things like that, like their treatment of like the Ainu, for instance. Like we don't talk about the Ainu. So if there's any sort of like cultural or it could be racism or societal or whatever issues, they just don't. They don't want to talk about them. They don't want to lose face by mentioning, yeah, there's a whole generation of people who have to sleep every night in a computer cafe, but we don't talk about them.
Right? And then again, like racism in Japan is kind of different than here in America, right? Mm-hmm. One of the main things you have to kind of learn is like you could walk into a bar and get denied because like, nope, you're not Japanese. This is a Japanese only bar. And you'll see like a lot of Americans flip out like, oh, this is racism. This is bullshit. Blah, blah, blah. But you have to understand like the history of Japan, the things that foreigners have come and done. And once you understand that perspective of how that culture is and how they view and see things, it's not necessarily racism. It's more what's the word? Nationalistic? Yeah, it's more nationalistic than it is racist. Like they're absolutely polite to you. Like they won't be like, "Oh, fuck you, black guy. No enter here." Like if you're not Japanese, they're just not letting you in because foreigners have a tendency to get drunk, get rowdy, break chairs, and do crazy stuff. And some of the stories Brian could tell.
Say that's just
so we actually get to explore some of those stories. Through the eyes of Regina as she tries to fit in to a culture that really doesn't want her there, and also try to fit. Well, it's actually like 2 cultures that don't want her there. She's got to fit into the stereotypical hardcore Urod door kicking Marine Corps culture and Japanese culture as well. And so that's going to be really fun and interesting to kind of show the parallels of stuff.
One of the really interesting things about that concept too is the idea that Regina's still enlisted, right?
Yes.
And so she becomes a magical girl, super powered character, and also a Marine. I mean, that's something that doesn't get talked. I mean, that you don't see that a lot in comics.
No,
right?
you don't see that a lot in like entertainment. At all, right? It's usually like the grizzled old fucking E8 Master Sergeant, whatever. Like, I've been deployed 8 times. I killed my best friend with a chainsaw back in Nam because he was drunk and he came at me weird. Or you see like the old disgruntled like officer and some bullshit. No one ever tells like the dirty enlisted side of things. Well, and that was like the other thing that Brian really wanted to drive home with Rags was like, this isn't like, oh, this is like some stellar officer who's in charge of shit. Like, no, this is the dirty enlisted side where you have no help, you have no support system, and they just throw you out on your ass and you have to find your own fucking way. So,
and zombies.
Oh yeah, and zombies and titties. But Sailor is the exact same way. And
I have a suspicion that the idea of the veteran is in pop culture, a lot of it because of the hard-boiled detective. You look at Sam Spade, you look at Raymond Chandler. A lot of those guys were in their own canons were World War I vets that came back to the States. And so I think that actually kind of started that idea about the veteran and his life after as being part of American pop culture. So
yeah, that's definitely like one of those. Oh god, what's the Equalizer? That guy, like he was he was a non-vet way back in the day.
I think so.
Yeah, same with the guy who flew that jet helicopter.
What, Airwolf guy?
Yeah, Airwolf. Like he was a vet.
Rockford. I've been watching a lot of Rockford Files lately. Jim Rockford was a Korea vet who came back and couldn't find work except being a criminal. And then after he got caught, he became a PI. So.
Oh yeah. Oh, also the moving on up guy.
Sherman Hemsley.
Yeah. No. Like, seriously, like he was a Korean War vet. No, like he was a Korean War vet. Like you look at American TV shows and shit. Like veterans are baked in there. Like what just popped in there? Sorry, Ghost Whisperer. Anyway, like veterans being a vet is baked into American culture, American just TV, movies, whatever.
Well, we had two generations that had the draft, World War II and Vietnam. So we had 2 generations where there were just a lot more veterans in general because there were a lot more people who were kind of got conscripted and forced to go to war.
And even before the draft, if you look into World War I, which was all voluntary, like millions of Americans died in World War I, right? Which is our share was less than the rest of the world's, right? But because World War 1917 was like the bloodiest year in Earth's history. People forget about that.
And then the Fire Nation attacked.
God damn it, Brian.
Brian, I'm the clown.
Sorry. But yeah, it's and I definitely think so. But anyway, I'm really interested. I'm intrigued to see kind of the idea about Reggie still being in the service with all this other stuff going on, but I haven't read it yet. So
yeah, you should get hot on that. It's completely designed to go up against Captain America, so I'll bring it by fucking A game. Coming after you.
So now I've seen, Tim, that Common America 3, of course, is we've talked about that. It's there on Kickstarter right now. All of you guys in the chat, go out and buy it. It's totally worth it, I guarantee. But Black Ops X, how are you saying the title for that next project that you're already working on?
It's hard. It's a tongue twister. I mean, it's Black Ops X Common America, but it's technically Black Ops 4.
So I tried looking that up because that's something the Japanese use a lot, is they'll use the X, and sometimes they'll transliterate it as cross, like it's these two. It's a crossover. Sometimes they'll consider it versus. Though in our story, it's not Black Ops versus Common America, so that's why we say X. And sometimes they'll use the Japanese word for versus with Tai, like Gojira, Tai Gaigen, those movies. So it's like they don't have a standard for how they pronounce that letter X in that context. It always seems to, and sometimes they'll say X. So it's easier just.
Or sometimes it doesn't really mean anything. Like gun was it gun sword? Where the guy's like down to Thursday and he summons the thing for the orbital elevator from the sky.
And or that what's that one? Hunter x Hunter. I've heard people call
it's Hunter Hunter.
Yeah, Hunter Hunter. So like the X is silent, so you're not supposed to say it.
Yeah, it's like an ellipses. And the guy was like, going against Common America, LOL, good fucking luck. Challenge accepted. Challenge accepted. This does nothing but motivate me to try harder.
It's that Japanese English nonsense. The same thing as to prove the justice of our culture. So we just put that X in there between titles as that kind of Japanese nonsense that makes no sense to American perspectives, but the Japanese just sort of absorbed it into their vernacular and makes sense to them.
See, the thing about that is like you say it doesn't make sense, it's just some sort of reference, but at the same time, right? I think part of the concept of Common America is that she's a private citizen who can do incredible things and therefore does to defend people that can't, right?
Yeah.
That's an American idea, right? That's like baked into our culture. So you may have put it in there as a nod to something that you love, but it still rings true to, like, the bucket brigade and the jury duty and all the stuff that, the citizen
jury duty, yes. The real heroes.
Citizen governance. Mock me if you will, but jury duty is important. It sucks, but it's important.
You get $10. They make it worth your while.
I've always gone out of jury duty because I always feel like I have to answer questions extremely honestly, and so whenever you go in there, it's just like, I don't know if you guys have been drilled about it, but they'll ask you things like, "What do you feel about this person? If this was ever to come to you?" And it's like I think he should fry because of what he did to like that person. And they're just like, all right, get out of here. Like, we don't want you on our jury.
So you also subscribe to Cardassian law.
Sure.
I use the Homer Simpson advice where it's like, the secret is to tell them you're prejudiced against all races.
Well, so the first time that I went, they had asked me a question about morality.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, I'm a practicing Roman Catholic, and I have a pretty hardline stance when it comes to things like the death penalty. And I don't know if they were supposed to ask me this or not, but they were like, are you for or against it? And I was like, I'm for it. And they're like, okay, we don't need you here. Like, I literally show up for jury duty. They ask me questions, and I never get accepted. I'm like, okay.
So I have I've served on one term of jury duty I got called up for, and I was on 2 juries during that time. But I was called to one of them that was like singled out for the deep questioning. And it turned out that I knew the person like through my job. So I was like, so I know the person through my job, and they're like, okay, we'll see you tomorrow. Bye. That was the end of that. But
wait, you knew the person who was on trial?
Mm-hmm.
That's insane.
Yeah. I mean,
real quick.
We weren't
I actually
close,
there was a journalist. The first time I was actually published was not art related. It was a journalist investigating this guy who murdered his girlfriend and then cut her up. And he was my classmate in school. And, everyone, whenever they interview teachers and stuff, they're like, oh, he was such a sweet boy. Like, oh my gosh, this is such a shock to me. And I forgot where it was, but I was like, no, he wasn't. He was a terrible human being. And this journalist was like, I want to talk to you. Like, what do you know about him? I was like, he was a jerk. Like, I've known him since I was like 12 years old. I'm the person who's least surprised he did this. But anyway, they locked him up for a long time. But anyway, I'm like, yeah, that was the first time I ever was published in anything, was that book detailing that event.
Did you get him with the death penalty?
No. Where was he prosecuted? Was he prosecuted here, or was he prosecuted in Arkansas? I don't remember. But no, he didn't even get life. He got like 80 years in prison.
Lame.
It was lame. It was really
I'll be honest. If you're giving somebody more than a lifetime, we ought to just be done with them and eject them from the planet.
It's one of those things where you're like, oh, he's serving 8 consecutive life sentences. Like, well, he's only going to serve one of those life sentences, but okay. It's kind of like impeaching a president twice. Oh, I went there. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Really, right before they're about to leave office? Yeah,
Yeah, right. It's
like a waste of time.
Yeah.
What about, have you ever hear of like that would actually make for a really good plot? Like what if a person who's like serving those life sentences, what if they have a superpower where they have like 9 lives? So the way it works though is you do have to die, and then you resurrect like within 24 hours. And so that's what this guy has to do. He's just been locked up in a prison. He's like, I'm here for 4 consecutive life sentences, and I've already served 3 of them, but I still have to live through like my other one too.
So
he's down to like his second life.
Fights.
No, but wait, but he's down to his like his second to last life. So if he dies one more time, that's it for him.
Yeah.
Oh, so he's got 9 lives, but 8 life sentences. So if he can just die 8 times in prison, then he'll have 1 life left to live free.
And everyone just thinks he's sick because he's like, shank me, bruh, shank me. And they're like, get away, dude, pervert.
So the big twist at the end is that, after he dies 8 times and the courts are forced to set him free, and, he walks out of the prison gate. He's like, I'm a new man. And then he gets hit by a bus.
I was going to say like a truck, but yeah, I like the way you think.
This is the worst Twilight Zone ever. That's what you guys just pitched.
It's a better version. It's a better version than what's it called? Not It's a Good Life, but Time Enough at Last.
Yeah.
Not fair. There was time now. There was time.
Oh man. Well, that's kind of off the rails. I kind of lost my train of thought with that one, honestly.
Yeah, I lose track of time. I think about Burgess Meredith too.
Black Ops X Common America. It's a silly goose time.
Yeah.
I'm 20 pages into it, so I still have about 40 more to go.
I am really looking forward to that one, to be completely honest. That's exciting.
Yeah, because you figured out. I think you're the only person to figure out a key plot point in it.
Yeah, that's true, but not the only reason. That's not the only reason. But I'm definitely on the list of things I'm excited for.
Oh, just you wait.
So
just you wait. We're coming for you. We're coming for you. It's gonna take a lot of work, and it's actually gonna take Brian taking crowdfunding seriously for a change. But we're coming for you.
It's not the destination; it's the journey.
So here's the happen,
right? So, like, all right, I'm gonna step out of character for a minute. Like, I absolutely hate Tim because not because like he's a terrible guy. Like, he's
pretty awful too. He stalks me at work.
But like, I hate Tim because he challenges me to be better than what I am and do more than what I actually want to do. And I see like all the stuff he does.
Shit, but no, Tim always has to make you a better person.
Tim always got to fucking make you a better person. Tim always got to set the fucking standard. Like, Jesus Christ, would you just give me a minute, Tim?
So, and here's I feel that. I feel that 100%, but it's even worse, right? Because I have been working on making comics since 2005. And all of you people are doing much better at it than I am.
look, honestly, like I do this as a hobby, and every crowdfunding thing that I've done, whether it was like the Take the Money and Run campaign or the both Re-Up Your Crazies, they were actually done half-ass. Like I didn't give a shit about any of those fucking campaigns.
And we didn't hear the end of it.
Yeah, like you guys, like I don't give a shit about these campaigns. No, we're not doing more variants. I don't give a fuck. Like we're just getting people their books and then I'm going home. But like then Tim comes out with a fucking statue and a theme song and Ginzo Man. It's like how the I can't just sit idly by and not do nothing now. I have to actually take this seriously.
I gotta applaud all of you here, is you guys put the work in, and it shows the love, it shows the passion, it shows the skill behind all this stuff. And that's the thing that, like, you know, I can't even, if I wanted to be mad, I couldn't be at all, because you guys just keep delivering and keep making comics awesome, and that's an amazing thing. And if my only part is getting to watch it happen and occasionally have you guys on my dinky little YouTube show to talk about it, then I appreciate that so much.
I will say this. Later this year, I think Brian will. I mean, I didn't know we had a race going on, but okay. Brian will probably catch up because my wife and I are moving. We're moving back to Arkansas, so that's why I'm trying to get everything at least wrapped up by March for the year, so that we can focus on doing that. So I'm gonna be like out of commission for like 2.5 months.
No, I will not accept this pity win. I will not accept this.
What I mean is that as far as crowdfunding is concerned, we've been ahead of it by about 2 years. So
yeah,
I mean, there's a bit of a curve there, you know.
No, it's actually really not about. It's actually really not about beating Tim. It's kind of more of like, here's somebody who does what I do as a hobby better than me, and I want to be that. That is where I want to be. So it's just that's like the pace rabbit, if you will, for me.
Yeah. Well, I was going to say what you got to do is time the Rags Black Hops punchline crossover for then.
Oh yeah, so that thing.
Hang on. Before we dive into that, I gotta dip out of here, dude. I'm very tired, and I'm just like falling asleep at my desk right now.
Thanks for coming, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Sorry I wasn't more talkative. Just real busy week.
No problem. I appreciate it. I appreciate anybody who can come anytime. So
yeah, next time, my dude.
Bye,
Trent.
Sure. Bye, Tim.
Bye, Trent.
Y'all take care.
Yeah. So speaking of that crossover, I have like a couple pages revised, and then it's on. Oh, it's so on.
I'm very excited. I have been excited about that since 2018.
Well, one of the things is a lot of the jokes are kind of old now, and I need to update them so that they're a little bit more relevant.
You mean
that's all I'm going to say.
Jokes aren't going to land like they used to?
Oh no, the Justin Bieber jokes will always land. They will absolutely always land. But the other stuff with a certain barcode, yeah, that might not land.
You're going to be like,
hey, might not be as good. Might not be as good. So
you're going to have like these like things like, whoa, what is that? Is that a big chungus? Oh,
or like a pog champ? Come here, my little. Yeah. No, I just need to make sure like a little bit more relevant because there's a lot of saltiness in 2018 on my end. So I'm gonna get all that salt out. So yeah.
Those Ugandan rags memes that you put in there, they didn't age well.
No, they didn't. No, looking at them like, Christ, this isn't good. So back to the drawing board. So
well,
that is what it is.
So I also want to interrupt quick, but you guys, Tim and Mark are also saying you guys got to take off here real quick, and I don't want to keep you longer than you feel comfortable, because I know like other people work tomorrow. So
yeah, that's Friday.
I work every day.
Yes, that's true. You're a hard-working man.
Dude, you have like no idea. Like I'm the only person at my office 6 days a week, and it sucks. I don't know how I get anything done.
I'm imagining you just do it.
Kinda. I got like so much writing to do. Like after I finish like this one crossover that I'm completely obligated to do because we said we do it, I'm not doing shit else. I'm just focusing on season 2 and Sailor Rogoski, and that's it. That's all I'm writing for the next 10 years. And then finally, Tim will have to say, like, yeah, Brian, you've bested me this one time. And then I can retire.
Tim can finally call you his little pog champ.
It's just the little things in life, man. Just the little things.
So, but yeah. Oh man, excuse me. So, Cody, here's
yes, sir.
that I have not asked. I don't think ever. Anytime I've had you on, how many chapters have you got mapped out for Jack Irons? Because I know you've got a huge, expansive thing. But has that story got a fixed amount or that you're working at for at Lark, or what's your plan on that one?
Right now it's 3. But no, if we're going into the future and goals, honestly, as long as the wheels don't fall off the thing, and we hit some bumps this last time, so I'm not doing much more than a step at a time. But I mean, this can go on for quite some time. My co-editor with Cactus Coyote, he's planned out 546 volumes for his work, and he's actually scripted about 70 of them. So I've got a little bit to catch up. But actually getting the gears in motion and moving, right now we're at 3. If I could get that 3, then we'll go 4, 5, and 6. I've got 4 written. I've got 4 sitting there, but I've got to earn it. So that's what I'm focusing on is earning the footing and being able to push forward and push through and go from there. But yeah, as long as folks want to read this tale, I made a character specifically that can fit anywhere. And my hope is after a long storied career telling this character and defining it, I can unleash it and let other folks tell stories within it to map out personality, map out time, use the platform to tell other stories like I'm doing right now, just to let other voices take it. But that's way down the line, if at all possible. Right now, again, get number 3 into people's hands. That's the goal, and we're there. Should be actually start delivering within the next month or so. Yeah, really, as long as people want them, I'll make them. As long as it's feasible and within my means, I'll do it. I love doing it. I love interacting with you kind folks. I love finding new creators and inspiring. I love finding new creators and being inspired. It's a wonderful, thing to join industry, and I just appreciative I've been able to get an education through it, to learn a business that I couldn't have learned otherwise, because kind folks believed in our work and been able to get other folks work when they needed it, and it's just again, it's a wonderful thing to take part in. As long as folks want it, we've got voices, we've got messages and stories to tell, and we would love to share them.
Well, I actually think I owe you 2 apologies. One, because I accidentally blocked you on Twitter. I mean, not on Twitter, on YouTube. I hit the wrong button here, and it won't let me undo it. So, sorry. I'll fix it when I go back to my YouTube channel. And 2, because I can't do it from this format, it won't let me. But 2, I hadn't realized that 3 hadn't shipped, because I got the digital when you sent that out, because that's the level I got it at. And I hadn't realized that hadn't shipped yet. So I didn't mean to bring up a store subject.
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. A lot of stumbles, some bad budgeting on my end, and I've been trying to earn it through 2020, and we've pushed through every hurdle that's come our way, but it's been taking some pushing. So I'm proud to be able to say that. But till it's in folks' hands, we are still considered a failure in my eyes. Yeah. So we'll get there. We'll get there.
I can understand. I understand that 100%. I would like to point out that number 3 is a tour de force. I loved issue 3. That is
I appreciate that. We spent a lot of time on the creative in there because we were blessed with enough reviews and a few people who were willing to sweep the legs out from under us and actually, this is what you could do to get my interest. One of the, the worst things I can hear is that this wasn't my favorite comic that I read in the stack this week. I want to be that fucking favorite comic. I need to be that favorite comic. So I've tried to take what I can to learn and improve it. I'm hoping 3 is just the beginning of something even better. But if it's the end, it's the end. And that's, we did a lot of good work. I don't think it will be, but again, got to earn it. So right now, I'm not taking anything for granted.
Well, you've put 1 and 2 up on the Global Comics platform too, right?
I put issue number 1 up there for free in full color. You can read it there. That's very helpful. I like Global Comics. I've actually gotten to know the CEO pretty well, and a few of the other folks. I was able to take over that platform for a little while there. That was fun. But the digital distribution is a great way to do it. Since I can't get onto store shelves, I need some other way of gaining passive awareness, and that's the best option I have currently. And Global Comics is all about indie comics, and again, I got to know the CEO. This guy's very personable, and they work very well with their creators. They make active promotions of them. It's a fun little platform, but
it kind of
honestly, we're not making money off of this. I can tell you that much.
Well, the good thing about Global Comics, it kind of fills that that Comic Central void that's been missing. God, I miss that platform so much. I just wish more people had gotten on it.
I think the biggest problem they had was they don't think they were generating the sales to justify all the server space.
Correct, and it's just like if we had just gotten more people on it to use it and go from there, it would have worked out for them.
Yep.
It's unfortunate, but it is what it is.
Ideal Comics, we had a couple of our mini comics up on that as well. We're on Global Comics too with several projects, and we've got some free. We've got some that are pay by the page on that as well. Because we're not at the point where we want to do physical distribution at the moment, unless you meet us at a con or something. We just can't generate the level of sales to justify the print costs.
I know that feeling.
Yeah,
I know that feeling too.
So,
the global.
Like that's not even like me being facetious, man. Like when I first started out, there were people like, "Hey, man, are you gonna print this shit?" Like, man, I can't even fucking afford it. I can barely afford to pay the artist right now. I was using my GI Bill to pay the artist to keep this thing, to keep the lights on, man. Like, I feel you. Barely making rent.
That's what we. That's why we started doing our own art back in the days, because there's no way we could afford an artist. So.
And you got to take care of the talents, and I'm so glad to have seen Tim and Mark's work take such a spectacular rise, and that it seems to be justifying the amount of effort they put into it, because it's definitely visible, the amount of effort that's put into it. It's very clear, and it's quite, again, inspiring. And I appreciate having that around in the comic sphere. It's very much needed.
I will say
there's one thing I want to say about Tim and Mark. As much as it kills me on the inside, like 5 years ago, it was almost about 5 years ago when everything kind of first started, and Tim was going through the stuff that he was going through. It's really, at least for me, it's great to see that he's been able to turn that bad stuff that happened at the beginning around into what is now Common America, and this really gigantic monster of an IP just sitting in his hands when other people have just gone and stomped on him and treated him like shit. And for me, that's like, I think Tim has gotten like the best revenge so far out of anybody I've ever met, just by being humble and successful. And I swear to God, I'm coming for you.
Yeah. Here's the thing, though. I will say one thing to Tim's humility, which is humility is great, but when I hear him talk about not being a good artist, I just want to wring his little throat.
I never said I wasn't a good artist. I said that I'm on par. Like, it's.
I would, dude.
There's no art critics aren't going to look at my stuff years from now. It's passable for what we need to do, so it just gets the job done. But I think credit has to go to Mark. He writes all this stuff. I just draw it.
Oh shit! I got Common America Volume 4. Oh damn! I forgot.
That's horse crap, because I can't tell you how many times I get pinged like, "Hey, are we gonna get like another Timothy Lim cover here soon?" I'm like, let me go ask him. I think he's busy. I don't think I'll be able to swing it. And then I ask you, you're like, "Yeah, man, I'm busy for like the next 9 years." Like, okay, I tried. Like, honest to God, if you ever go look at eBay, that very first Timothy Lim variant that we had went for like $500 to $600.
Yeah, I hope you save some more. You should sell those things.
I don't have any more. Like, I archived all that stuff. So I can prep for season 2. But yeah, all that stuff is gone, dude.
Nice.
I think I have like a couple that I need to send to Luigi, and that's it. But like, that variant is like one of our most popular variants next to Shen's.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shen's for a reason.
Yeah, Shen's are 2, 3, very
4.
Huh? What was I saying again?
Few round reasons. Got it.
A couple of reasons. Yeah, Shins. Yeah, but man.
Well, I try to be humble because turnabout is fair play, you know.
Exactly, and like one of the great things about like working with Tim, like for these last 4 or 5 years, is when I find something new, I'm like, hey Tim, check this out, and he's like, when he finds something, he's like, hey Brian, check this out. I might not be able to afford it at the time, but because I'm making sure like Luigi eats like caviar while I suck down ramen. but like whenever like he finds something new, he lets me know about it. Like, oh hey, look, I found something new. Here you go, and like we help each other out, and that's like one of the great things I love about this crew, as much as I hate them. But it's more of like
I can be mean though. I mean, like Mark saw it the other day. We had a couple people who were hitting us up and being like, "Hey, I want to dip into your audience. Can you help me out?" And I was like, "I remember what you said about me."
Yep.
And so Mark was like, "Hey, what about this?" I'm like, "That dude, no." And he was like, "Okay." I was like, "I have a pretty long memory." So there are some people I forgive, and then there's some people where I was like, "What you said about me is just so etched into my mind that I'm like, I just remember telling myself, I'm like, something happens in the future, don't come to me asking for help because that door is closed. You made your bed, you sleep in it, you know." So I'm not I don't have exactly a kind streak to me. I should probably be more forgiving, but there are just some things in business where I'm like, you made yourself a competitor 3 years ago, and not in the same way that Brian and I are technically like competitors, or Cody and us are competitors. That's a very amicable thing. We're all trying to kind of rise in tandem with each other through parallel business practices. I'm like, these are people who tried to like torpedo me.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
Yes.
you do not get to benefit from anything I get to give to you because there's no guarantee that you're not going to torpedo me using my own business skills and contacts, you know? So I closed that door. I was like, nope, ignoring you.
Yeah, I have a similar thing, but I won't talk about that here. But yeah, I get where you're coming from on that.
Well, and I think there's a difference between, well, first of all, like there's the practical reality of competition within a marketplace, because every marketplace is fixed into a certain level, or it's fixed at any particular moment in time, right? The market as a whole can grow, new people can come in, all that kind of stuff, but at any fixed moment in time, the market is fixed for that moment. And so there's a reality that, like, well, if I want to buy everything that Tim has on this crowdfunder, then I'm going to have to not buy anything else for 2 months or whatever. Like there's that level of competition, but at the same time, you're like, supporting rags doesn't necessarily mean you're hurting common America. It doesn't mean you're hurting Jack Irons.
So I absolutely hate Tim right now, like so much with every fiber of my being, but I'm one of those dumbasses that actually backed Common America like the second it went live, and it's not really like a actual hate. It's more of like a friendly. Oh God, it's more of like that black guy in Rocky.
Like Lang?
Yeah. No, the other black guy.
Oh,
the mustache guy.
Oh yeah, I did Punch Out. Never mind.
Weathers. Yeah. Anyway, the point, Apollo Creed, that's that dude. It's more of like that sort of rivalry where like I hate you, but only because like you challenge me to be better, right? And just seeing Tim succeed just makes me want to like, oh, I need to step up. So there's that sort of competition, and then there's like the other side of it where you're just like trashing on somebody just to be trashing on somebody. And you're not really helping them improve or anything.
But it's a mutual growth because, for example, you gave me my first gig as far as independent comics are concerned. It's like, hey, I want you to work on my cover. And that's how our business relationship started. And then you helped me out because you're like, hey, buddy, this cute, sexy robots guy, like, you need to hit him up because right now they're available. I was like, oh, sweet. So then I hit him up. And then afterwards, I was like, hey, Brian, like, I got some more contacts. I have if you ever need Coffin or Genzoman or a printer, like I got it. So there's this mutual exchange going on. So I don't know. I don't even consider it like a competition or rivalry. It's just by default because we're two creators.
A little bit of envy. I would guess.
Well, and there's a not this isn't necessarily that show.
Apollo Creed.
Apollo Creed. It's not necessarily that show, but it says in the Bible, as iron sharpens iron, so one man sharpens the countenance of another.
That sounds
Amen.
In the professional world, your goal is either to create competitors worthy of you, or it is to knock everybody down. And for my sake, I don't think there's any honor in knocking somebody else down. But there is a lot in building up your opponents and beating them on a fair playing field.
Amen. Like I feel like there's more. I've said this before. Like the independent comic community is a very small ecosystem. So whether you're a Timothy Lim or Ethan Van Sciver, a Jack Irons, a Juan Poole, whoever, like I want you to succeed. Because the more you succeed, the better it is for me in the future and for the next guy that comes in to replace me, And a lot of people don't really see it the way that I see it. I think Tim called me like a dreamer at one point.
Because a dreamer? I don't think I said that ever.
That's
not a word I use.
What was it that you said? It was like I'm more of like an idealist or something.
Maybe idealist. I don't know. I do say idealist, but I don't remember this.
Well. Anyway, like I'm really more about like the journey than I am about like making the millions and hundreds of dollars, right? But I think like hey, if I have Tim to compete with, that's gonna make me better. If I have Jack Irons to compete with, that's gonna make me better. Having healthy competition, that's great, but just going around and just dumping on people and crapping on people, that's really not gonna make anybody better in the long term, long run. And in this ecosystem, you don't want someone who's going to put out a bad product, right? I want everybody to put out the best product they can be. And I try my best when people come and ask me like, hey, Brian, how do you do X, Y, and Z? How do you guys actually like drop ship so fast is the way you do? I'm like, hey, I just do this. And these are the tools that I use. Like I figured out waifu pillows last year or 2 years ago, and the very first person I hit up was Tim. Like, hey Tim, I can do waifu pillows now. This is the way we can do it. And I still owe you for that fuck up. But neither here nor there. The point is, like the more like one person learns and then can pass it on to the next guy and make that next guy successful, the better we are as a community. And not a lot of people tend to think in the grander scheme of things. Is Brian anti-shitting on people publicly? Yes, I'm also anti-shitting on printers publicly too. Like we can have a chat about this.
A lot of people
like
would
Josh,
rather.
We can have a chat about this all day. If you wanna call me out, we can have a private chat. We don't have to do this on somebody else's stream. Like, come on, dude, calm down. I don't hate you. I just didn't think the way you went about that one thing was the right way to do it. That's all that was. You took it the way you wanted to take it. End of story. You blocked me. I moved on. If you want to have an actual conversation, my DMs are open. Sorry, I just had to respond to that. The hypocrisy is mind-numbing. Okay, sure. Again, we can talk about this privately. We don't have to like drag people through the mud.
Anyhow,
yeah.
Let's go back.
I tended to have a more comfortable journey on all of this. Just from my perspective, real quick, I tended to be able to find. I'm a little bit naive. I try to find the good in everybody, no matter the situation, and that can lead to some trouble, sure. But it's also led to a lot of learning, a lot of ability to observe, and I'm grateful for that path as well. I'm not as defensive, but I will burn fucking shit to the ground if ever pushed into a corner. But I've never had to be. I've never felt that threatened. So I've been lucky. One
of the things I want to say is and I was going to try to interrupt you, but you were on a roll. But that's okay. But one of the things that I really appreciate about you, Cody, is something that you are. It's not just that it's not just that you're naive, you actively try to look for the best in people, and that includes I really get the feeling from it. It includes pushing yourself to be better than you feel you were yesterday, and that's that's something that everybody should have that kind of willingness to observe themselves and to really weigh themselves. But that's I know I'm way too sure of myself to notice that I don't do that often enough. But that's something I've always appreciated about your post is you really actively look for the best and shoot for it, and I think that's a great thing. So bit of a mutual appreciation society on today's show.
That's one way of saying it. There's a less kind way of saying it.
Well,
like sometimes we all take the internet way too seriously, and we need to just step back and yeah. Is this really the way I think it's going? Let me actually talk to that individual and figure out what's really going on.
See, is it that we take the internet too seriously, or we don't take ourselves seriously enough? In terms of what it really means, you know what I mean?
A little of both. I would actually say a little of both. Am I the most perfect person in the world? Hell to the nah. Hell to the nah. I do dipshit things all the damn time. But, at the end of the day, I'm always willing to, if somebody says, hey, Brian, you messed up, always willing to listen, and at the end of the day, that's all you can do. Social media has made us into a society that doesn't know how to take criticism, if you will. We don't know how to take criticism. We also don't know how to give criticism anymore.
Yeah, so, and I think the social media is actually a huge part of that, because in regular human society, when you're face to face with somebody, right, you can't just take the gloves off unless you're ready to take the gloves off, for the reals, right? there are physical reactions that you can cause to somebody, in a face-to-face confrontation that you have the protection of your keyboard from in social media. And we wouldn't let the real world become a YouTube comment section, but I think we jump into that in the YouTube comment section really freely.
Yep. It is what it is. At the end of the day, do we really want to destroy our relationships with each other over comics? And my answer to that is always going to be no.
Well, and my biggest point with all of that is it's not really about comics, right?
No, fair. It's about relationships. I still have to teach myself this, and I learned this from one of my favorite warrant officers. It's it's not really so much about the work that you do; it's about the relationships that you build. And you can be a terrible worker, but if you're cool with 8, 9, 10 of the guys around you, that will hey, this guy will cover for you. Oh, you know what? Guy may be a dipshit, but he means well. He does all right. Or we'll just cover for him. So it's little things like that. Not to say I'm going to go around and do shitty work, but it's really all about hey, if I have a good working relationship with person A, and I could take that to person B and person C and person D, and just build a good solid working relationship. That's really what's more important at the end of the day, having those good solid working relationships than just being Joe Blow dipshit. I don't really got fucking meat's hitting hard. I've had 2 bottles, don't judge me. I can't relate sentences.
Well, guys, I have work in the morning, so I'm gonna have to split. I was nodding off at my chair here.
That's amazing.
I gotta get out of here. It's late for Mark. Well, thanks for having me on, Matt.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, man. I always love having you guys on. It's always a fun conversation, even if it's not quite so. So this has been a different kind of intense than I'd expected, but that's okay.
It's all good. All right, I'm going to bed. You guys have a good night.
Night, Mark.
So cool.
Just the four of us.
Just the four of us.
I shouldn't talk anymore.
When it comes to back to the subject. Well, I'm not even sure. It's trying to lock up on me. So if I no, I'm just going to pretend like everything's working and go from there. So, I'm not hearing anything at all. I may have completely frozen.
You have frozen. Let it go. Let it go.
Honestly, Brian, that is one of my least favorite films of all time ever.
Yeah, mine is Debbie Does Dallas. It's like, it's not really like a great put together film, but it just does what it needs to do.
Yeah, that it does. That it
Wow.
does.
Would you believe I've never watched the whole entire thing? I've only gotten through the first hour.
An hour? Impressive.
Yeah,
Any
yeah.
of it.
It's more than one of my friends have gone.
So, just I've totally lost track of what I was going to ask Tim before my screen froze.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So, it was something about back to the pop culture references and but I can't remember what it was. Can't at all. Can't.
Can't even.
Just can't.
Can't. Oh, I can't recall. It looks unfrozen now.
Bastard short-term memory.
Oh man, I tell you what.
Arch villain for years now.
Then all of it is that I have to sit here in like shocked horror, not remembering what I'm talking about, while Brian goes on about an ancient porno that I've heard about.
Whoa! It's not ancient; it's a classic. All right.
I don't
Classic.
know.
Not the art.
I wouldn't have the faintest idea. So anyway, yeah, jeebers. So Tim, what is the since I can't think of anything else, would you have a project date for Black Ops X Common America? Is that looking at March for release or?
Right now we're looking at May.
May, okay.
Like the first week of May, I think, because I should be finished with this in February, so late February, and then I'll immediately start work on Common America 4. So our release schedule so far looks like it's going to be January, May, and then August, and then that should give me enough time to work on Common America 5 for release in the spring of next year in January. So,
like, okay, don't mean to interrupt, but hey, Tim, when did you guys start drawing? I want to say, Black Ops.
Which one? The one that I'm working on right now?
No, the first one. The first one.
Oh, geez, I don't remember. 2017, I think.
Okay, so have you stopped drawing since then?
No, I do a page a day. I mean, I stopped for I go for a vacation like two weeks out of the year. Last year,
right? But outside of like, you know, normal things like vacations and holidays and weekends and time with the wife. But have you I have a point to this. Have you stopped drawing since then though?
No, there's not a day that. The only time I take off was last year. I had an ulcer, and it was stress related, supposedly.
Yeah, I remember this.
Yeah, and I want to say this about Brian real quick. So it's on our fridge, but Brian wrote me a really nice note, and he sent it to me not knowing I was going through a health problem. I thought it was cancer, to be honest, because my mother has colon cancer. She had colon cancer, but she underwent chemo for a year and got over it. So I was scared out of my mind that that's what it was. So I had a checkup. I had to go through 3 doctors, and I had took a CT scan, and they're like, "No, we actually think it's probably just an ulcer that you have." So I took about a week and a half off last year to just not draw, basically, because they were like, "How many hours of sleep do you get a night?" And I said, "Anywhere between 5 and 6." And they're like, "You should be getting like 7 to 8. You're not like old." And if you're just like working and then drawing and basically just going through that rhythm, like it's gonna mess you up. So I take Sundays off, so I don't draw on Sundays. But the rest of the time, I put in at least 5 hours of work a day, and that's not just the drawing; that's the editing, that's the coloring, and the lettering too.
Yeah, so I do the lettering for our books, but Luigi's like been the same since he started working with me about 5 years ago. Like there's not been a day that he hasn't drawn something for me. And he works about 6 days a week, and now I've gotten him down to like working like 5 days a week. And the reason why I wanted to bring this up was people are going to look at Tim and Common America and be like, I wish I could do that overnight success. I wish I could be just like that. But again, as you just heard him tell his story, he's been drawing nonstop for what, 5 years? Yeah, nonstop for 5 years.
Yeah,
Luigi's been drawing for us nonstop for 5 years. And I know we're due for like crossovers and some other small stuff, but when you have like deadlines for your comic book publisher, you really can't afford to stop drawing and then draw this other thing and then get back to it. And also I can't afford paying two artists at the same time, but neither here nor there. But at the end of the day, there's a lot of work that Tim and Mark have put into making their book a success, and this is like the human toll of it that people don't fully realize. And sometimes I get asked the question like, Brian, how are you and Luigi and Trent able to pull off Rags and get it done? It's like, dude, we don't stop working. Like, there's not a time where we stop working. Again, I work 6 days a week just on my normal day job. 6 days a week on my normal day job. And then I come home for about 4 hours. I get maybe 2 hours of that to actually work on something. And then it's like Rags related stuff, messing with my Discord, trying to find a new way to surpass Tim. But, like there's like all these like things that you do, like you're constantly researching, whether it's like a new artist, a new way to get deliveries done, new packaging, costs for shipping, better ways to get stuff done internationally, better ways to like monetize your stuff, better merchandise, whatever. Like it's just a non-stop thing. Like the train never stops.
Yep.
So what I want people to take away from the stream, even though I've already fell out of character because I got too drunk to stay in character. But the thing is, like, if you're gonna do what and be, if you're gonna try and do what Tim does and be successful at it, you gotta realize like the physical toll that's gonna take on you, the emotional toll is gonna take on you, and just the human price of it all, right? I know I've gotten to points where like, yeah, fuck this, I'm never doing comics ever again, and then something else pops up. It's like, oh man, I gotta do this new thing, and then like Tim will get phone calls with me randomly all the time, like, man, I quit comics. The next day, dude, I have like this wonderful idea, and like I do this to the poor guy all the time. But anyway, at the end of the day, you guys got to remember, like, this is a lot of work, and you got to be ready to put the work into it.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that, like, I can personally attest to too, right? When Chris and I were doing Forces routinely for the first several years, right? We did Forces pages, twice a week, just the two of us. And so I know it's a slog, right? And I've been through it. And even going back through, we're coloring the archives right now and putting them up on the I can't remember the platform, Webtoons. And so I'm back into all of that, reviewing the old stories and coloring them up and making them look shiny, and that whole thing. And I'll tell you, it really is. And sometimes, you'll never get the success, right? You'll never. I mean, if I have no pretension of ever getting to where you guys have gotten with it, any of you guys, right?
Look, I didn't even want to be here. I just wanted to do this as just like a local hobby. And then Tim comes over here waving his big dick around. Now I have to take his shit seriously.
Well, what I'm saying is
so much
is like the thing that comes back to is, and something that Cody mentioned earlier, right? That these stories that we're telling, they're not just, they're hobbies for us. They're passion projects, perhaps even, but it's because we believe in something. We've learned something. We want to share something. And it's not about, like you were talking about, Brian, it's not about the dollars. It's not about the success. It's about the thing itself. It's about the making of it, the sharing of it. And you and I've talked about this before with Rags, you're telling a story that is so important, right? That like nobody's telling this story. And that's the story that has to be told. And that's the same thing with Common America. We're coming back to something that had been lost in American comics, that was part of the fabric of it and just isn't there anymore. And I think that's something that it's all of the slog and all of the work and all of the effort is it's worth it because of the messaging that goes through with it. And to tie this back to our theme, a lot of those pop culture references that we weave into stuff, right? Whether it's, in my comic, Mr. T has shown up as a supporting character, right? Because Mr. T is amazing. So as a dude, he's just an amazing dude. But those things that reflect back to lessons that we've learned and things that we've experienced that are worth passing on. And that's one of the things I love about the medium, that it creates this, for lack of a better way to say it, a positive feedback loop from our experiences into the underlying truths of our experiences back into our experiences, and the things we can pass on to others.
Amen.
So, well, it's actually just about 9. I have run out of things to talk about twice now. So it's a little bit short of a thing. But before we do that, let's go around and everybody say where they can find things for those of us who are in the Neo Star Productions in the chat. You don't get any more supportive than Mr. T.
I pay a fool.
I believe that is true. Cody, your stuff is it still up for sale?
No, I closed that campaign once I saw how it was moving, and when we hit a kind of a reasonable point, and then I have been making up the ground personally since then. But I think you can snag some number ones through Wicked Publishing. Check out their website, wickedpublishing.net. A lot of other cool creators there too if you want to check out their work. The best place for our work is our imprints website, ironversecomics.com. Has all our links. I've been doing relatively bi-daily live streams, so I'm available for folks. I've been starting this a new segment called the Ironverse Quickies on the YouTube, which is just a real short review where I try and sweep the legs of some indie creators, so maybe I can get them to improve and make the medium again, make the competition out there that much tougher. So we got to get that much better. Yeah, I think that's probably the best place, ironversecomics.com. That's where you can find the best Weird Space West and interact with it.
Tim, you're making 5 figures on the Kickstarter right now, right?
Hate you so
Yes,
much.
sir. So we're on Kickstarter right now. We just launched yesterday, Common America Volume 3. The number one question, how do you get Volumes 1 and 2? So there's some confusion regarding that. We're part of the beta testing for add-ons. So if you're listening to this and you're interested in Volume 2, all you have to do is just add Volume 3 and then check out. And at checkout, they'll give you a drop-down menu where you can select from, I think, 5 add-on options, and those include Volumes 1 and 2. So you can head over there. Or you can pick up Volumes 1 and 2 in a trade paperback format at iconiccomics.com. So that's Iconic Comics, 2 separate words, but joined together.com.
Wow. I'll be honest, like I was really tempted. I just don't have the budget, but I was really tempted to pick up the hardcovers of 1 and 2 because damn it, I want my own the old match. But
yeah, I've noticed that some people are really about that. They want those spines to match. My bookshelf is really at all. It's just a random assortment of books, and it was not something I considered, but just fortunately enough, we are really, really low in quantity on the trade pack, so we were forced to go into a print anyway. So we just said, hey, let's just put in hardcover. So I know some people have bought the hardcovers of 1 and 2 simply so that they have the matching spines, and that's always appreciated.
Yeah. Well, see, some of my trades end up in my filing cabinets as opposed to on my bookshelf. But hardbacks don't go in the filing cabinets. So that's the other thing, is I have to decide where I'm going to store it now because they don't match.
Oh, gotcha. It's a rough life, you know.
Oh, man, I tell you what. Well, I've got...
It's a hard knock life for us. It's a hard... Sorry.
I've got cabinets full of comics in the room over here. So I've got a few. So then, Brian, you're on Patreon is your primary contact with the outside world, yeah?
Yep, that's a primary contact with the outside world. Patreon.com/Nanco. That's NANCO. That's where you can find us. You can also find us at newagedintracore.com. You can buy all of our books digitally there. We will update. So the cool thing about our digital books is if we find an error like 2, 3, 4 years down the road, we'll actually go and fix it and then update the PDF, and then you'll get a nice email notification that, hey, these dipshits have updated your PDF. Go download a new one, right? So my patrons know this as 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 I finally get like the final version of the way the book is supposed to look. They'll get like version 1 through like 9, and then hey, that's the final version. But you can find us there on patreon.com/Nanco. We understand that a lot of people don't like Patreon's politics. We don't either. It's just that's the best platform for us. That's where we make the most money. That's where we can keep Luigi gainfully employed with us full time, and so that he's not working for Tim. Oh yeah, because he'd be working for Tim full time, and I can't allow that. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. But look for our Kickstarter and Indiegogo pages soon. We actually plan on launching something special very, very soon. It's kind of a secret for now, but just keep an eye on it. We got something in the works, and it's gonna be dope.
Very cool. Very cool. And this is my show, so I will end with my own show. You could find most of our stuff at idealcomics.net. And that will eventually, hopefully tonight or tomorrow, I will be updating our links on that to reflect our Global Comics page, as well as the colored version of Forces, in case anyone wants to go back and read it. So that'll be on there. We do have a Patreon as well. And if you guys want to help us build those future projects out and see projects we are working on in the background in process, it's a good place to check us out. So pretty much everything we do gets a first dibs on Patreon, and some of the stuff stays exclusive there. So, but yeah, thanks so much for tuning in, guys. It's been a fun show. I really appreciate you guys coming in, and for those of you guys who are interested, next week we are going to be Dan Sacco, I believe. Oh man, I can't remember his first name again. But the guy who does Oi, Tales of Bardic Fury, maybe Brett, also with Mythoverse, and Matt Krotz are going to be here talking about mythology and comics and folklore and how they all intersect.
Oh man, I like Matt Krotz.
Yeah. I love Matt because he gives me tons of crap whenever he's on. So he keeps me on my toes. I appreciate it.
Yeah, he's an okay dude. I actually had a fun time talking to him.
Oh yeah,
I gotta ping him, see what he's up to.
Yeah. He's a good guy. He's a good guy. So
yeah, he's fun people's draw talk.
Yeah. Yep. Anyway, man, we will take off and have a good one. Good night.
Stay black, everybody.
I can't.
Be careful.
Now with